What's good, everybody? Welcome to season 2 of Greatest Hits. I'm your host, Free J Boozy, and you can find us here every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on tv.thehundreds.com. Now I am joined with my greatest historian and co-host, Daniel Awad. Welcome, Daniel. Welcome back to season 2, man.
Glad to be back, man.
We're back, baby. Every Tuesday, we'll pull timeless classics out of the vault and tell you some of the stories behind each of them, as well as talk to some of the creatives that brought them to life.
While you watch, hit the chat tab to talk with the rest of the community. Then, go for the shopping cart tab to add items to your personal collection.
Before we get into season 2, we just wanted to remind you that there are still a bunch of great pieces available from season 1 that you can still purchase on the shopping cart tab. Now, without further ado, let's get into season 2, episode 1 of Greatest Hits. Now, first up, we're gonna feature the Garfield and Friends t-shirt, which is from our 2010 collab, which was very, very monumental for the brand, directly in collaboration with Jim Davis.
As you have mentioned, 2010, that's 10 years from when we had first released this.
So that means this shirt is coming up on its 10-year anniversary. Now, what is monumental about this is when you talk about collaborating with very, very iconic brands and licensing entities, it gets kind of hectic, you know, when you're trying to plan out the design and stuff. And so what's really, really cool about this piece is we were actually able to alter the actual art and actual personalities of all of these characters. So if you see, this is Garfield's normal crew, yet they kind of have a little bit of a hundreds flair.
Yep.
You know what I mean? For instance, Adam Bombar shirt, right? Piercings, you know what I mean? Jags skateboard in the cut. Like, there's just like a lot of cool things about this t-shirt that make it very hundreds, very iconic, but also staying true to, you know, Garfield's personality.
That's right. In the past 10 years, we've actually had 3 collections come out, including this one in 2010. We also had 2018, and we also had one in 2019 for Family Style Food Fest, where Garfield himself came out and showed some face.
And that was really funny because they did the collab with Secret Lasagna, which used to be a spot in Chinatown.
That's right.
And so, yeah, of course, we paired Food Festival, right? It makes common sense to pair Garfield with the fun-loving, lasagna-loving Garfield with
He loves
Secret
lasagna.
So, Awad, you know, just to give the viewers a little bit of background about yourself, you essentially have been a part of the Los Angeles streetwear scene for what, better part of 14 years?
Yeah,
you would
just
say?
about, yeah.
So Daniel has been basically 4 spots ahead of you in any single drop ever on Fairfax or Rosewood, ever. So this guy's been around, he knows his stuff. So for you, what are some of your favorite Garfield moments with the hundreds?
Well, I mean, for this one in particular, I definitely want to shout out my local skate shop, Transport. That's actually where I went to go pick up this particular shirt.
So that was a regional account that carried the hundreds in your neighborhood?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
It was back in high school. I was coming out of school that one day, and I just remembered that there was this release coming out. The only way that I really knew about it was actually through Facebook, because that was pretty much the only social media I had at the time. And I had to go and see if Transport had it. They only had the one t-shirt of Garfield holding Atom Bomb. I don't know if you remember seeing that shirt.
Yeah, for sure. It's the classic one. It's like,
yeah. So I was able to pick that one up, and I was so glad that they had it in my size, because I was literally the only person in high school rocking that tee, and everybody fucked with it. It was so sick.
So speaking of size, this size in particular is an XL.
That's right.
What's really cool about this shirt also is, like, you know, when you talk about like digging into brands' heritage style and really reflecting on the brand as a retrospective, right? Tags are insanely important.
Oh yeah.
Because tags are a way to really, really distinguish like what era something came from, right? So the hundreds has always like kind of elaborated on the tags over time. We actually have a great tag guide that we personally use to figure out exactly what era these hundreds pieces have come from. Because when you're talking about streetwear is, you know, a newer phenomenon, but the hundreds have been around since '03. We've been on this shit.
17 years, man.
And, you know, our founders, Ben and Bobby Hundreds, Ben Hundreds, Bobby Hundreds, they're really into Garfield. They loved Garfield since they were kids. And actually, Garfield was the original gateway for Bobby to actually start designing, start drawing, and kind of starting his quest within the streetwear world through graphic design. So Garfield has such a warm place in the foundation of the hundreds. And it's just really cool to get to revisit these stories and figure out why Garfield has been so successful for the hundreds 3 times over the 17-year brand
That's right,
history.
yeah.
So one of my favorite greatest hits fun facts about this Garfield collab is Jim Davis illustrated 3 comic book strips that involved Atom Bomb in the Garfield universe. So we were able to characterize Atom Bomb in Garfield's world. And so that was really cool because not only did we get to involve Jim Davis, but he reinterprets Atom Bomb in a whole new universe.
By the way, those were actually 3 of some of the last hand-drawn strips that Jim Davis was able to do before they went fully digital.
Digitalization fucking up everything, man. So AWOD, we actually had a really crazy rollout for this, right?
Yeah.
We had an art show and a pop-up for this.
That's right.
What do you remember from that?
Well, it did feature a lot of pieces from greats like Barry McGee, Usagro, Lance Mountain. They all did interpretations of Garfield's artwork.
Mark Dean Vecca also, who we've had a collab with as well.
That's right.
Actually, just kind of jumping back to season 1, remember that Mark Dean Vecca deck we sold?
That deck was
right?
awesome.
So yeah, that's really wild that they got so many artists in one place to like kind of have so many similar, very, very high caliber perspectives on new Garfield. It's amazing.
That set the tone for the new location at the time, which was Santa Monica.
There we go. So with that said, I think this is a perfect time to move on to our next piece, the Hundreds Fresh Jive shirt.
Let's do it.
Okay, AWOD, so this next piece I'm really, really excited about. This is the Funky Resurgence tee that was the Hundreds Fresh Jive collab. Like, some of our viewers might not know, but Fresh Jive is one of the like most cult classic streetwear entities of the early days, right? And so we're talking about this as a resurgence of this tee, right? And so for Bobby, Rick Klaus was one of his biggest influences, right? So it was kind of his big brother, you know, he really looked up to that whole process and design style of Fresh Drive. And so when he approached Rick with the opportunity to possibly do a t-shirt or possibly do a collab, he definitely wanted to bring back one of his favorite riffs, which was the Tide riff that Fresh Drive did earlier. And of course, this is really cool because this says THLA, right? Except it's an E flipped upside down for Fresh Drive.
That's right.
But it looks like an A. And so that is an old moniker of the hundreds. THLA is no longer used, actually because of a legal dispute with the big entity of Tommy Hilfiger.
That's right.
So TH, Tommy Hilfiger, TH, the hundreds. Tommy was like, yo, I'm gonna pull up with the lawyers if you don't chill out. Bobby was like, fuck, I guess we gotta do it. Ben was like, all right, let's just run the hundreds.
Yeah.
And so anything that says THLA is definitely old school.
You know it.
So, AWOD, Fresh Drive. What are some thoughts and feelings? What are you thinking, bud? What's going on, man?
First off, Rick Klotz is a hell of a legend. If you haven't heard anything about the brand or the name, you're definitely missing out if you're trying to get into the streetwear world. If you can get your hands on a Fresh Drive tee, especially the ones from the late 90s, early 2000s, you're definitely holding on to a piece of history in the world of streetwear.
Okay, so there's a lot of history with Fresh Drive in the hundreds, so we should probably do a little deep dive into some fun facts for the viewers.
Definitely.
So when Bobby actually went to go interview Rick Klotz, he asked if there was ever gonna be an opportunity to remake one of his favorite graphics, which was the soapbox design. And so what actually came out of that is like, yeah, Rick Klotz was like, yeah, Bobby, you can run it. And so it's basically how this t-shirt was made.
Wow. So the other shirt that Bobby asked to have reintroduced was this Raw Fruits graphic, which was actually the first time that we got to see Atom Bomb on a t-shirt.
And also just a little bit more information of this t-shirt in particular. Now again, this is a live shopping channel. So everything you see on this show is actually going to be featured on the shopping cart tab. So do not sleep on adding these pieces to your personal collections. With that said, this is a very old hundreds tee with a lot of history. If we go into it, it actually has our old school bomb tag.
That's old.
It's old, right? And then another really cool thing about this, OG dead stock tag. So this is a very heavy hitting OG hundreds vault piece that can be yours for your personal collection. Okay, so I think that's a good jumping off point to go on to our third piece from season 2, episode 1 of Greatest Hits. And if you're just joining us, we are here every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on tv.thehundreds.com, our in-house streaming network. So without further ado, let's move on to our next piece, which is the Lost Boys tee. Okay, so now in terms of brand history, right, the Hundreds has had some pretty major collabs in the past. Two of the top ones I would say is the Disney collab and Garfield, which we just covered. And so there's this really cool thing within kind of the obsessive Disney culture where people make T-shirts to wear to Disney, right? If you think about, like, you see a family reunion at Disneyland or something, they all have the family reunion tee,
Matching
right?
colors and everything.
So this was kind of the Hundreds take on that, right? So if you think about Post, the Hundreds San Francisco store, right? A lot of the design elements of the store were very based around Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, right?
That's right.
So did you ever go to the SF store?
I did, actually, for one of the holiday parties. That was probably like my second time there.
Okay. So can you, like, what was the build out like? Because I actually never got to go. I've only seen the videos, right?
It's like nothing you've ever been into. That shop itself is just like, you're walking into like a whole other world. It's kind of pitch black in there, which was causing a lot of problems for some customers. But I think it was just all part of the atmosphere. You're surrounded by these skulls that are reminiscent of Skull Rock and the whole scenes in Peter Pan. But there were also hints of Kubrick films like 2001: Space Odyssey. The monolith itself was actually used as a mirror, so you could check out the clothes that you're wearing. Post was a really cool shop.
Cool. So the Post element was surrounded around Ben and Bobby feeling kind of out of place, like some Lost Boys, because SF is, you know, everybody always talks about how the Bay used to be. Right now it's just like a lot of tech, a lot of sort of dry retail atmosphere, and the Hundreds was something, you know, very subculture, very niche, and they kind of felt like Lost Boys in the San Francisco landscape, which is pretty reasonable. Every time I go to SF, I feel like...
I feel pretty lost too.
Yeah, exactly. So what's really cool about this is, you know, Ben and Bobby come from law. It's kind of interesting that, like, you know, these streetwear titans didn't actually start in streetwear. They started studying law and ended up meeting people in school. And so what's really cool about this t-shirt is this is a bootleg rip of Disney, right? Disney is like one of the biggest entities on the planet. Like, you grew up going to Disneyland, correct?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. So everything in Disney is locked like a box in terms of licensing. And so what's really cool what the Hundreds accomplished with this piece is this was a bootleg piece that caught the eye of Disney. And like I was referencing earlier, a lot of our collabs initially started from rips that ended up leading to something official down the road.
That's right.
So this was the original inception of that too. And for me, if we're talking about greatest hits overall, this is definitely a top 10 greatest hits piece for me.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? What's really cool about this is, like, you know, it's got elements of trace design. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a shadow puppet sort of vibe of the Lost Boys. And also the back graphic is just so, just like, sick. It's a nice, like, logo rip. What's really cool about some of the other design elements of this tee is Mixed Media Productions is mentioned on it, which is, you can always tell if it says mixed media, it's definitely like a classic from the Hundreds vault.
Oh yeah.
You know, as you were mentioning earlier, we are in our Hundreds headquarters right now in Vernon, California, beautiful Vernon, California.
Yep.
And actually back there we have a huge print facility where we handle all of our printables, not only our printables, but a bunch of printables for brands around the world. And so it's called Mixed Media. It's like the printing shop.
And it's run by Ben's brother, John.
John Shanasafar. Shout out, John. Hopefully we can get him on some future episodes. I am going to put this on film, so then he has to come, and then he will then feel bad if he does not uphold my ask. I'm a hard guy to say no to.
That's for sure.
Okay, and so two more of my favorite design elements of this shirt is, if you look at the Lost Boy text, it's actually the OG Disney font. We reworked that to not only say Lost Boys, but we implemented our Solid Bomb logo on that. Also, one of our very popular monikers from over the years, which we will feature on pieces later on in the season, we are the music makers. We make noise. We want to be heard. These sorts of ideas are very, very staple in the Hundreds sort of vocabulary. Sure. The Hundreds vocation.
Another interesting fact is that we took this font and carried it into our actual collab, which turned out to be a no-no in the world of licensing for Disney. And that had them rewrite the whole process for being able to do any sort of collaborations with Disney.
So on this tee it says Lost Boys up here in the Disney font, but on our actual Hundreds collab,
it just says the Hundreds on the bottom.
In the Disney font on the bottom, which is the design element that you're referring to.
That's right.
To the rewriting the rules. The hundreds got no rules, man. We make the rules.
Yeah, trendsetters.
Until we get sued. And so just a reminder, this is a live shopping network, so all of the pieces you are seeing featured on today's show are available on the shopping cart tab, as well as you can chat with other viewers about the pieces that we're covering right now. So don't sleep. This piece is for sale now. Lost Boys Tee, Greatest Hits, Season 2, Episode 1. Continuing on our theme of rips that turned into official collabs, the next tee we're gonna feature is the Bitter Enemies tee, which was actually ripped off of DC Super Friends' Saturday morning cartoon.
Let's do it.
Let's take a look. Okay, so this is a very special t-shirt for Greatest Hits. We featured 2 others previously. Do you remember what colorways those were?
Yeah, we had a white one and a gray one that sold out instantly.
Okay, so this is the first black one we featured on the show.
That's right.
And so I really, really like this tee because if you think about Justice League in general or DC superheroes,
yeah,
generally there is some friction and they all get along, right? It's like a united front, so to say. This is a kind of different flip on it because the tee is called Bitter Enemies, right? So, and then if you look at the actual graphic design, Aquaman's in a headlock, Superman's about to get sucker punched by Batman, Wonder Woman's like, yo, I fucking hate you, Superman, you know what I mean? And so it's this whole like hodgepodge of kind of betrayal or backstabbing.
Yeah.
So sometimes on Fairfax Ave, a lot of the competing brands kind of get a little friction and have a little beef. I feel like this t-shirt was kind of speaking on your friends becoming your enemies.
Yeah. Well, on Fairfax, there's a lot of, you get a lot of community. This shirt was made in response to a falling out that a friend has had with Bobby and Ben.
So sometimes your friends become bitter enemies, which is for sale now. And one more thing to note, this is a tee that has the OG Hundreds tag, the Kirby tag.
Oh yeah,
so
that's right.
if you check anything with this Hundreds bubble tag, you know it's one of the early pieces from the inception of the brand.
That's right.
So speaking of bootleg rips that ended up turning into collabs and projects down the road, we have something very exciting dropping this week at the Hundreds X DC. We're gonna give you a first look at this t-shirt right now.
Yeah. And we tapped into that era of artwork to reference the graphics that are being used in this collection.
So as you can see, these are vintage designs of your favorite superheroes, right? So we have Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Robin up in there, Green Lantern, Batgirl, The Flash.
Martian Manhunter
Too. A lot of deep cuts from the DC universe. So again, this piece was kind of started from the original Bitter Enemies collab that has kept the DC characters so close to the Hundreds songbook.
Right.
All right, so Awad, when can people get their hands on these pieces?
Well, you could grab this and the rest of the collection tomorrow at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on thehundreds.com. All right, that's a wrap on the season premiere of Greatest Hits. Don't forget, you can add all 4 of these pieces to your collection right now using the shopping cart tab.
All right, so you can check us out here every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on tv.thehundreds.com. Special shout out to all of our viewers and everybody who copped a piece from today's episode. Make sure to follow at The Hundreds Greatest Hits on Instagram, and we will see you next week.
Peace.